Hey guys, what's up? So this is gonna be sort of like an unconventional video, and not kind of like my other videos that are silly. This is gonna be a very serious video. So today I normally don't talk about this kind of stuff on YouTube, you guys, but I'm gonna tell you about my experience with meeting Renegade Raider, and so this story sort of all starts out. Yeah. So it was June 6th, 2018. So I was over at my friend's house, playing Fortnite because I couldn't play it at my house. So I was playing with this dog. It was all chill. So then I said goodbye. I said, all right, see you tomorrow, all that shit. So I drove the Bugatti home, and one of my friends hit me up, Jonesy. He was saying, yo, we're all coming to this club. We're going to go party. You down to come? And, I told him, I'm like, normally I don't, do these kinds of things. At that point, I was a pretty good guy. I didn't do, other crazy shit other than just drinking. But, he convinced me to come out. So I came out. Not with my girlfriend by the time, and by the way, she was a default, which I'll get into that later. But oh my god. So yeah, I drove over to the club. I think it was about 20 minutes away from my house, but at this point it was around like I'd say 9 or 8. Yeah, 9 or 8, and I meet up with my friend. Jonesy, we're all chill. We're like, yo, what's up, bro? What's up? And for the next few hours, it was relatively that we, drank a little bit, partied a little bit. But it all started when we met. She's kind of like a local celebrity, but we met. I said, I met. Sorry, let me rephrase it. I was at the club and we met Renegade Raider there. Now, at the time, she was streaming on her phone on Twitch, so I didn't want to go interrupt her. But, strangely enough, she approached me, which was kind of crazy because I'm low-key a virgin and don't do that shit, But it's because the girls are usually too scared of me because, they're too scared to approach a guy like me. So it's kind of like, type shit. But, anyways, so yeah. She approaches me, she comes up to me, she's like, what are you doing here by yourself? You're just gonna be cranking 90s all by yourself? And I was like, what? But I kind of laughed it off because I'm like, what? No. But we got to talking, and she's talking about how she's this big deal, kind of like rare in the Fortnite community, I used to live, I live in Slurpee Swamps now, but I used to live back in Pleasant Park, so just for some foresight. But she was kind of a local celebrity in Pleasant Park. But yeah, anyways, we get to talking, and eventually some of my friends, they're going back to a different club, right? And Renegade Raider actually asks to come with us, so she separates from her whole squad, right? And then joins the party with us. So then, we get in the limo because I just had my butler take the Bugatti home, type shit. But essentially, so we're riding. All my friends. Here's kind of the general layout. This is the limo. This is the length of it. All my friends, they're up here, and then I sit in the back because normally I was kind of done by then, But I was sitting there in the back. Headphones in, just reviewing some boogie clips. And then, out of nowhere, Renegade Raider comes up and sits next to me, which, I just met the girl, I didn't even know. But, she starts asking, stuff like, you're single, are you single, and stuff like that, which I get it a lot, so I always have to tell them, oh, I'm with Jessica. She's a And then she asked for a picture, so I showed her a picture, and she's like, "Oh, a default." And I was like, "Okay, what's wrong with that?" I mean, it's not like we're in the Pleasant Park in the 1950s, dude. Like, come on, if defaults are humans too, like one. But anyways, so essentially, she started saying all this shit, and essentially at one point, even though she knew I was with Jessica, a default, right? She started saying shit like, "Oh, how about you stop? How about you come fuck with the real one instead of that default you're cranking with?" And I'm like, Jessica's the only one I would crank 90s with. I'm sorry, I'm loyal to her like that. But okay, so I had my drink in hand, right? At that point, I was kind of looking at the window. She's sitting next to me, just kind of like chilling on her phone. At least I thought. Then I take, another sip from my drink. I finally finish it, and I sort of look down. I'm like, this drink is very bubbly. This is kind of weird, like, And then till eventually, I just passed out. Like, I had no idea what happened. So then I wake up, and I'm in a freaking, dude, I'm in a basement. I'm freaking out. I'm tied up, dude. And she had me in a permanent boogie bomb trap. And I was like, and I couldn't do anything because I was trapped from the boogie bomb. But essentially, I see her walk up to me out of the darkness and into my small little like pool of light from the single light bulb that was coming down. And I was pretty scared at first. And then, God, this is hard to talk about. She proceeded to one pump me, but she pumped my pump, and by that point there was nothing I could do. It was out of my control. I was in a boogie bomb. But God, this is hard to talk about. But I just remember her saying, I'm gonna slime out all the defaults on the island. I'm gonna slime out Jessica. And then I'm sorry, it's just really, it's kind of hard to talk about on YouTube. But yeah, it's, just give me a moment. But so I thought I was screwed. I thought I was gonna be in there forever. But then I realized I actually had a trap in my inventory. So, she went back up to get a glass of water, and then she also grabbed 3 honey packs, and she was coming back, and I'm just glad I came out alive. But when she went upstairs, I set a spike trap on the roof, and the second she came in, she was knocked. God, oh my God. You don't really like, you see on TV, you see in shows, you see someone get knocked. You're like, oh, it's all fun and games. Oh, it's someone getting knocked, and it's not really that funny anymore. But it was hard. It was hard. She had an exotic scar on the floor, but the boogie bombing stopped. And before I processed that she had just been knocked right before my eyes, I got out of the house, I called up the squad, and I said like, yo dog, let's run trios, bro. I'm like, I need help. So we contacted the Fortnite support, Epic support. They took care of it. I drove back to the crib, and I just hugged Jessica, but I don't want this to necessarily be a video about me, but I want people to be aware that this does happen to men, and that defaults are very oppressed. We don't really, they are human. They are just as much of a player as we are. So I want you to realize something. Just because you have an exotic skin, even if you're Renegade Raider, even if you're Black Knight, even if you're all these skins, we're all the same player. Nothing changes that. So, yeah, guys, I think that's going to be it for the video. But I thought I'd just share my experience with Renegade Raider. And I hope this brings some more awareness into your guys' lives. Yeah, I think I'll end the video here, guys. Goodbye.